Hello, I'm Jessica Ryan Keeney. I am an attorney licensed to practice law in the state of California. Today we are going to discuss visitation verifications provided by DCSS and keeping visitation logs. So just a brief introduction. I'm Jessica Ryan Keeney. I'm an attorney licensed to practice law in the state of California. I'm the Department of Child Support Services attorney for two small Northern California counties. I've been practicing family law since December of 2009. Before that, I was a law student working for a family law attorney. And I am a former city attorney for just shy of 5 years. What I'm going to say today is not legal advice. It's for educational purposes only. Be sure to like the video, ding the bell, subscribe, make sure you get notifications when we upload new content. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the comments below. Any answers aren't going to be legal advice, but sometimes they make for good topics for future videos, and they always make for good discussions. So, what is this visitation verification? It's a log provided by DCSS that you can fill out, and I'll have a link to it in the description below. I'll also have a link to it on my website, and we're going to take a look at it in this video as well. They're a way of keeping track of the amount of time that a parent has with the children and the amount of parenting time each parent has with the children is very important because the percentage of parenting time is one of the values that gets plugged into the California guideline child support calculation. So for purposes of this conversation, when we say non-custodial parent, we mean the parent who's paying child support. And when we say custodial parent, we mean the parent who's receiving child support. So the law that explains how the percentage of parenting time factors into the guideline calculation is Family Code Section 4055. And in relevant part, it reads as follows. The statewide uniform guideline for determining child support order is as follows. CS equals K times HN minus parenthesis H% and parenthesis, start parenthesis TN and parenthesis and parenthesis. The components of the formula are as follows. I know that formula is kind of confusing. It looks a little bit better when you look at it, but not much. And the family code lays out what each of those letters and sets of letters stands for. And relevant to this discussion, H% equals the approximate percentage of time that the high earner has or will have primary physical responsibility for the children compared to the other parent. In cases in which parents have different time-sharing arrangements for different children, H% equals the average of the approximate percentages of time the high earner parent spends with each of the children. And basically what we have to do is keep track of the amount of time that the non-custodial parent spends with the children, and we plug that into the equation or the calculator, and the calculator will take care of the rest for us. I mean, we have to plug in other things, but that bit about percentage that the high income earner spends with the children, the calculator will figure that out if we just plug in how much time the non-custodial parent spends with the kids. Okay, so for purposes of this discussion, the takeaway from Family Code Section 4055 is that the amount of time each parent has primary physical responsibility for the child or children is plugged into the support calculator. So the amount of time each parent has primary physical responsibility needs to be kept track of. And the visitation verification from DCSS specifically asks that we put in the amount of time that the non-custodial parent has with the children. So it's important to know that primary physical responsibility may be different from having actual physical custody, and I'll do another video on that. For example, when the child or children are in school, neither parent actually has physical custody of the children. However, one or the other of the parent is usually given credit for some or all of the time the children are in school. And one example is when the parents share a 2-2-3 parenting schedule. So, and I mean, this happens not just in 2-2-3 schedules, but this is just a way for us to discuss the matter. So a common 2-2-3 parenting schedule, which you may also hear called a 2-2-5 schedule, is a schedule where, for example, father has parenting time from Monday at 8 a.m. to Wednesday at 8 a.m. and then mother has parenting time from Wednesday at 8 a.m. to Friday at 8 a.m. and then the parents alternate weekends such that every other weekend father has parenting time from Friday at 8 a.m. to Monday at 8 a.m. And with a parenting schedule like this, the parents are actually sharing 50-50 custody. Mother and father each get credit for having primary physical responsibility for the children during their parenting time generally, and this includes even when the children are at school. When it's father's parenting time, if the children need to be picked up from school or picked up early from school or have something brought to them at school, for example, one of the children forgot his lunch, then father needs to make sure he's taking care of these things or arranging for someone other than mother to take care of them on his behalf. If mother takes care of these things during father's parenting time, then mother has a pretty good argument that she has primary physical responsibility for the children while they're at school, even during father's parenting time. However, for mother to convince the court of this, she's going to have to keep track of all the time she takes care of the kids while they're at school or otherwise not in the physical custody of either parent, even during father's parenting time. And obviously, this applies when the roles are reversed and father's taking care of those things during mother's parenting time. DCSS has a visitation verification form that the parents can fill out to let DCSS know how much time the children spend with the non-custodial parent, and we will take a look at that visitation verification. My tongue is tied. We'll take a look at that visitation verification and quickly get an idea how to fill that out right now. Here is the visitation verification provided by DCSS directly from the DCSS website. A link to this will be in the description. And this is not a fillable form, so you'll need to print it to PDF to fill it in electronically, or you'll need to print it out and fill it out by hand. But I have a copy printed to PDF already. So here we go. Filling this out, we put the name of the parent who's filling this out. So Frank Smith is father. And in this case, mom and dad have 50-50 custody. So who's the custodial parent and non-custodial parent is going to hinge on who pays child support. So let's say that dad's the one paying child support. So dad would be the non-custodial parent. We check that box. You can help DCSS out a lot if you put your DCSS number here. Whatever that number is, that's that really long number that you find on a bunch of your forms from DCSS. And then actual visitation by the non-custodial parent. So here we are. They want us to fill out the actual visitation that the non-custodial parent has. Complete the visitation history by filling in the last 12 months and number of hours for each month the non-custodial parent visited with the children. If visitation is different for each child or children, please complete one form for each child. Example, if the last 12 months are June 2014 through May 2015, you will complete June through December on the left side of the chart below. You will put 2014 in the year. You would complete the right side of the chart with January through May and put 2015 for the year. So this is really easy for us because right now it's January. So we would put, January of 2022 here, and this is going to be January of 2023 here. And so going back to the left-hand column, we've got February of 22, March of 22, April of 22. You see where this is going. I'm not going to keep repeating this, but we fill it out. Whoop, that didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. Let's try that again. Okay, and January of 23 isn't complete yet, so we're actually not going to fill in January of 23 at all. So we could have put all of this in the right-hand column, but that's okay. So now we tally up the amount of hours that dad has had visitation with the kids for each month. And in this situation, mom and dad have 50-50 custody. So dad has had half of the time with the kids. So January has 31 days times 24 hours, 744 hours divided by 2. He's had 372 hours. And we're going to go down the form and we're going to fill it out that way. And then at the very end, we'll total the number of hours that dad has had. Now, it's really important that you keep an accurate tally of how many hours the non-custodial parent has had with the kids and that you fill it in on this form. There's a second page for this form. And this is so that you can fill out the visitation schedule. So here we're going to say that mom and dad have shared visitation because they do. For some odd reason, now my font is size 6. That's really small. We want it to be size 12. Okay, and then regular visitation hours. And this is where we're going to specify what all the visitation is. So we have a few different things to fill in here. So for us, it's going to be easier to just fill it out here. We have Mondays at 8 a.m. to Wednesdays at 8 a.m. Then every other weekend okay, and then we would fill out the vacation verification and the summer or the vacation visitation, the summer visitation, the holiday visitation. Really, it might be easier if you're actually following a holiday schedule that was court ordered to attach a copy of that court ordered holiday schedule than it would be to fill out each of these sections. And then be sure to print your name down here, sign here, and date here. And at DCSS and with the court, the part that we're really going to look at is page 1, the total number of hours each month that the non-custodial parent shares with the children. It's common to see parents disagree about the amount of time the children spend with each parent and fill out that visitation verification in a way that contradicts the verification of the other parent. And when this happens, a more detailed visitation log is very important to help the court. So visitation logs can be kept on a Google Calendar or something like that. They can be kept in a hard copy calendar. They can be kept in notebooks. They can be kept in Word documents and an Excel spreadsheet. There's no particular file format that these detailed logs need to be kept in. But regardless of how this more detailed log is kept, it's very important that the information be written down every time the children have parenting time with the non-custodial parent, and that the following information appear in every log entry: who the visitation was with, date of the visit, start time of the visit, end time of the visit, and a few notes about the visit. And when and if the custodial parent takes responsibility for parental duties during the non-custodial time, it's important to keep track of this and take notes in that in the more detailed visitation log. And if the parental responsibility was something like picking the kids up from school early, taking them a forgotten lunch, or volunteering at the school, then those notes about the visit are going to be particularly important, so the court can decide if the court's going to count that as parenting time for the parent who did it or not. In the case of childcare, those notes that are important to be kept in the visitation log are notes about who chose the childcare, even if it was jointly chosen, who fronts the money for the childcare, who pays the childcare, who signed the contract for the childcare, and again, who's picking the kids up from childcare, and if they need to be picked up early or if there's an emergency, who's responding to those emergencies. And a lot of times there hasn't actually been an emergency that needs to be responded to. And so it's just going to be a question between the parents of who's actually going to be responsible for that if there is an emergency. But if there have actually been specific times that the parents have had to pick the kids up or tend to the kids at daycare during the other parent's parenting time, that information is going to need to go into that more detailed visitation log. And then if the custodial parent takes the children to doctor's visits during the non-custodial parent's parenting time, that needs to be noted in the visitation log as well. And notes about the date and time of the appointment, the time the custodial parent picked the children up and dropped them off with the non-custodial parent, they need to be entered. Some notes about the doctor's visit without invading the privacy rights of the kids might be helpful. A receipt from the doctor's visit might also be helpful. And then in the case of boarding school or residential treatment program for a child, other notes that are going to be important to keep in that more detailed visitation log are notes about who chose the school or treatment program, who's financially responsible for travel expenses for the child to and from the program, which house was the primary residence of the child before the child went to the program, which house is the primary residence when the child is away, which house is the child going to return to the majority of the time when the child comes home, how often does each parent visit the child while away, which incidental expenses do each parent pay for the child while the child is away, things like books and allowance and snacks and field trips and what you'll know what incidental expenses get paid for those programs if you're in that situation. It will be important to provide dates, times, and notes about each of these entries, as well as evidence such as plane tickets, hotel receipts, gas receipts, credit card charges, online payments, bank transfers, and things of the like. And this will make more sense in my next video, which is going to be a more in-depth discussion about the percentage of parental responsibility and how the court looks at that. So if there's more than one child and the child have different amounts of parenting time, then it's important to keep a separate log for each child. When filling out the DCSS Visitation Verification, the parents will take the information from their more detailed log, calculate the amount of parenting time the non-custodial parent has with the children, fill it in on the DCSS Visitation Verification, and then the more detailed visitation logs and supporting documents should probably be attached to that DCSS visitation so that DCSS has them and so that the court can have them. And be sure to always keep a copy of all the documents you send DCSS in the court so that you have a copy for yourself. So there you go. That was visitation verification log, brief explanation of what it was and the types of information that are going to be helpful if we have conflicting visitation verification logs. So as always, this was not legal advice. This was for educational purposes only. We sure appreciate you tuning in. Be sure that you liked the video, subscribe, click the bell so that you get notifications when we upload future content. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the comments below. And the responses won't be legal advice either, but they often make for good conversations, sometimes the topics of a new video. And be sure to check out the description below because I always provide links in the description below to things that are going to be helpful. In this case, that visitation verification. Usually there's a write-up for the video, and so there will be a link to the write-up, and then there's usually links to where you can find the family code and other useful links. So always check out that description below. Thank you so much. We will see you in the next video.